Can I welcome everybody, trade unionists, community organisations. Can I welcome our international comrades here, in particular the Namibian Chargé d'Affaires, Mr. Michael Naruseb, who's here. Welcome, Michael. He's representing the Namibian High Commission tonight. The lecture has been running since, I think, 2022. It was first delivered by Jeremy Corbyn in Parliament on that occasion. Tom will talk more about Fenner Brockway, but just to say that he was a leading socialist, an anti-imperialist, an anti-war activist. He did co-found the Movement for Colonial Freedom, which is Liberation's successor. And so at that point, I'll now hand over to Tom to deliver Brian's remarks. Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, comrades. My name is Brian Leishman, and I'm the Labour Party Member of Parliament for Alloa and Grangemouth. Well, let's imagine I am. We all are looking forward to hearing from Peter Mertens this evening, but before we do, I'd like to say that it is an honour to be here speaking with you in my capacity as Parliamentary Chair of Liberation at the annual Fenner Brockway Lecture. And thank you to Unison for hosting us this evening and to Kevin Nelson for chairing. At the end of World War II, 1/5 of the world was under British sovereignty, with approximately 780 million people living under European colonialism. And while that 1945 Labour government embarked on radical domestic policies that transformed Britain, with the exception of India, they didn't support widespread colonial freedom in contravention of the Atlantic Charter that eventually helped break up the British Empire. And those are the principles that Archibald Fenner Brockway held dear in his 99 years. Born in Calcutta in 1888, Fenner initially started out his professional life as a journalist, and after joining the Independent Labour Party in 1907, he was appointed editor of the newspaper Labour Leader. As a pacifist, he opposed sending troops to France in World War I, and he launched an appeal for those of fighting age to form the No Conscription Fellowship, to campaign against the possibility of the British government attempting to introduce conscription. The No Conscription Fellowship produced a newspaper, The Tribunal, which Fenner, of course, edited. Eventually, Fenner was charged with publishing seditious material. He pled not guilty and was subsequently acquitted in court. This was Fenner's first encounter with the law, but his second did end up with him being arrested for distributing anti-conscription leaflets, and saw him refuse to pay the fine and end up serving 2 months in Pentonville prison. Undeterred, shortly after his release, Fenner was arrested again for his refusal to be conscripted. Fenner also supported British involvement in the Second World War against the evil of fascism, but remained as a chair of the Central Board for Conscientious Objectors until his death. Fenner was first elected as one of the 287 Labour MPs in the 1929 general election, and as a Member of Parliament for Leighton East, he got off to an excellent start, with the Liberal candidate he defeated announcing that Brockway had converted him to socialism. We could certainly do with a few more Fenner Brockways at the moment. Never shying away from taking a principled stand, it didn't take Fenner long to be suspended by the Speaker for demanding a debate on India at Prime Minister's questions. Even after converting a Liberal, Fenner lost his seat in 1931, and the following year he disaffiliated from the Labour Party. But his passion for socialism didn't leave. In fact, it led to Fenner Brockway's name being recorded in Hitler's Black Book of British subjects who would have been arrested had the Nazis invaded Britain. But Fenner only made the short journey to the other end of the central lobby, and he became Baron Brockway of Eton and Slough that same year. Fenner continued to campaign for peace and was the chairman of the Movement for Colonial Freedom. He was also president of the British Council for Peace in Vietnam and a member of the Advisory Council of the British Humanist Association. A statue of Fenner stands at the entrance to Red Lion Square in Holborn and was funded by many of the Commonwealth independence movements he supported throughout his life. Journalist, pacifist, anti-colonialist, socialist. Fenner Brockway passed away in 1988, aged 99. His was indeed a life well lived. Thank you for coming tonight, comrades.
Thank you, Tom. Before I introduce Peter, can I mention another distinguished guest with us here tonight is Dr. Ashok Diwali, in the front row next to Alex, who is the National President of the All India Farmers Union and a member of the Politburo of the Communist Party India Marxist. And Dr. Ashok delivered the annual Marx oration at Highgate Cemetery last Sunday, and it was a truly tremendous and memorable event. Thank you, Dr. Ashok. Okay, I'll introduce our main speaker, Peter Mertens. Peter is the General Secretary of the Workers Party of Belgium, PDVA. He's been a Member of Parliament serving in the Chamber of Representatives since 2019. He was here in London last April to launch the English edition of his book, Mutiny, How Our World is Tilting. It's available at the back if any comrades would like to buy it tonight. Over to you, Peter. Welcome.
Right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here at the Fenner Brockway Lecture this year, and I would like to thank Unison for hosting this event. I wrote this book in the end of 23. It's called Mutiny, and the subtitle is How Our World is Tilting. But little did I know then, in 23, how our world is tilting, because since I wrote the book, there's a lot of things happened in this tilting world. So I would like to tell a little bit about the book and the actualization of this book and our point of view from Belgium towards what's happening with the re-emergence of someone like Donald Trump and Elon Musk with the escalating militarization of Europe. It's a very important day today, not only because it's the first day of the Paris Commune that started, but it's also 2 hours ago the Bundestag in Germany, the parliament in Germany, they voted the credits, they changed the constitution of Germany. It's really, this day will be marked in history as a day that changed Germany, and I do think Europe too. I will speak about all these things. I think the most important thing, and that's a thesis from the book, is from a European perspective, and when we are talking in Belgium and maybe all over in Europe, is that many people don't know and don't see that the change in the global economic spheres in the world is going towards Asia and towards China and India. And all these centuries of Eurocentrism makes people in Europe a little bit blind of this event. And I do think that's the main changing factor in our world. That is that there is upcoming economies, of course China, but also to some extent India. And Europe is in decline, even for a longer time, and maybe we are in the negation phase of, or how do you call it? I'm not a Freudian, but there's the phase that you don't accept what's really happening, and I do think that's now in Europe happening. But also for the first time, I do think the United States, in their relatively short imperialistic control over the world, has a challenger like China. Of course, they had a challenger like the Soviet Union, of course. It was a real challenger. but the extent of the challenge of the People's Republic of China is much more greater than the Soviet Union has ever been able to do so on the economic and on the technological front. That's some thesis of this book, Mutiny. And it's not only a question of rivalry between superpowers. I do think also in a Marxist point of view, there are two motors, two locomotives from history. Of course, there is a class struggle, which is a very important motor or locomotive from history, but there's also the technology, the productive forces, the development of the productive forces. And I do think that Marxists and Marx and Engels themselves, they were always very careful to study the change in the productive forces. And if you see now the two big changing things in the productive forces, you see on the one hand all the technology involved in to become to a fossil-free economy. It's a huge changement with the solar panels, with the wind industry, but also with the batteries, with the networks, the energy grids, etc. It's a big change of technology. And on the second hand, of course, artificial intelligence. It's a big change. It's not an accident that Trump and co, they have pulled Musk into the White House. They have pulled the whole Silicon Valley in the White House. It's not the other way around. It is Trump, etc. They pulled the Silicon Valley in the White House, for example, to introduce artificial intelligence into the army. The testing case being, of course, the genocide in Palestine. If you can have the whole discussion how artificial intelligence is used to commit genocide in Palestine today. It's also tested in Ukraine, the Starlink of Musk, etc. So it's on the military level, artificial intelligence, but it's of course also in all the other levels. So these two big things, on the one hand, the green economy, let's put it like that, and on the other hand, digitalization and artificial intelligence, that makes the world tilting too, because there is also the need for raw materials for these two main things, and that is the batteries, the semiconductors, the lithium, the cobalt, the nickel, and the graphite. And if you don't see that, you cannot understand why Trump is talking about Canada, why Trump is talking about Greenland, why Trump is having this deal with Ukraine now. If you don't see this control, this need for the control over these raw materials, then you cannot understand, and you're maybe like the most of the media saying it's a crazy thing, but there is a structure behind the madness of Trump. There is a logic behind the madness, and the logic is an imperialist control over the world today. So if you have done a phenomenon as Trump as a new president, of course you have the discussion. The problem with the election system in the United States is if you punish one part of the ruling class party, yes, then you have the other part of the ruling class party. But basically, in the control of the capitalist and imperialist system of the United States, basically, fundamentally, it's the same thing. It's two heads of the same animal. That being said, what's happening now since Trump is in power, there are some specificities that are maybe new, because we know, of course, that like the big concentrated monopolies in the US, like the military complex, but also the fossil fuel complex and industries, etc., the monopolies, the medicaments monopolies, etc., they gave money to Democrats and Republicans. They did it always. But this time, when you saw with the inauguration, the first row, when Trump was sworn in for the second time as president, there were a lot of billionaires on the first row. It was not a family business, no, it was a billionaire business, and they were shining there, one beside another. And for the first time, 9 of them, billionaires, they got a public function inside the cabinet. It is not a control behind the cabinet, behind the curtains. No. They are like the Mr. Finance at this day in the United States. It is a millionaire, and Scott Bessent. And the first thing he does is say, okay, I will continue the fiscal policy of Trump 1 to have fiscal cadeaux, fiscal gifts towards myself. It is openly, it is blatantly the capitalist class, and what Musk is doing now since a few months. I don't know if you heard about it, but they created something called DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. It's completely illegal. It's not voted inside Parliament, and no, it's kids. They are kids, 18 till 24 years old. They hacked in the governmental system. They copied all the things, all the data to a private server from Elon Musk himself. Completely illegal. And they cut down Musk and his team of teenager hackers. They cut down what they don't like US8. US8 has always been double. There is 8, and there's always been also a vehicle for the soft power imperialism of the US. There's a debate on, but he didn't like it, so he put it down, etc., etc. And so Musk is, with his Department of Government Efficiency, hacking the state of the United States. And that kind of phenomenon are rather new. The system is being the same. It's the imperial system. It's the control of the big oligarchies. But the way it's been operating, that is rather new, I do think, for the moment. There's a lot of protest at this time also in the US. Nobody elected Elon. There's everywhere in the US now manifestations against Elon Musk. Also the Tesla business is going down. It's a good thing. Everyone hates Elon Musk, and it's correctly that they hate Elon Musk. But not only Elon Musk, it is this billionaire class that has openly take over the power they had the power, but now it's openly inside the cabinet of the US. And in Europe it's silent. In Belgium it's silent, in the continent it's silent. I can imagine it's also silent in the UK about it. But I heard that there are some people here also in the UK that are referring to what Musk is doing, and I heard some voices saying that also UK needs some kind of department of government efficiency, and there are obviously some forces in the UK that want to copy all the bad things from the US. So I would advise not to follow this road towards the disaster. And at the same time, in the European Union, you have all this debate of militarization. Since I wrote a book, since 1 year and a half, it's going in a crazy way. And maybe we have to remember ourselves that the European Union, even in 23, was in bad shape. And Germany was after the sanctions against Russia, which were, by the way, crazy sanctions. I don't know, after World War II, a situation like that, where an economy that had cheap energy shot itself in the feet, cutting themselves from cheap energy, importing themselves energy, very expensive energy from the US, and going into depression. This auto kill from Germany, it's economically a rather special thing. Germany, the economy killed itself because Washington wanted to be dictated to Germany to do so. And so Germany was in a recession. France was is still in a political crisis. Macron is a minority government. He's in the shackles of the extreme right wing. They organized it themselves. Holland is in complete. Mark Rutte, the former prime minister. Everyone in Holland was sick of him, and so they kicked him out. Now he's the General Secretary of NATO, okay? And he left Holland, the Netherlands, into the hands of the right wing. It's a political crisis in Holland, etc., etc. And globally in the European Union, last year the growth was only 0.2%. meaning almost stagnation. So European Union is not doing well. And what is the response now of the European Commission and of the European establishment? That is, okay, let's militarize the economy. That is the big answer towards all the problems. So they didn't invested in the development of new technologies. They are way back towards China. If you see China going forwards in the new technologies, Europe has lost this battle on the new technologies. And so the answer should be, okay, let's develop a new industry and new capacities in Europe to develop these new industries. But no, they won't do that. They will choose the card of the militarizations. And I think what's happened now today in Germany is a tilting point. So for those who don't know, it's for the first, there has been elections in Germany in February. And so the traditional parties were all sanctioned. Even the Christian Democrats, second worst election result in their history. The worst was last time, now it's the second worst. Social Democrats, worst election results in their history. So luckily the Linke has maintained and even grown, but there is the fascists of the AfD, they were growing. And so they're now constructing a new government with Christian Democrats and Social Democrats. But they don't have a 2/3 majority in the parliament to change the constitution. They don't have, and what did they do today? They called the old parliament from before the elections to search this 2/3 majority and to have this major shift in German politics. And they abolished the Schuldenbremse, the cap of the debt cap. So they were in Germany always very monetaristic, very dogmatic monetaristic. And so no one could have a debt. When when Varoufakis went to Frankfurt saying during the Euro crisis 2011, okay, we have a problem in Europe, they said, no, you can go bankrupt, you have to buy to the Troika, Ireland the same thing, Portugal the same thing. They were very harsh when it was towards social spending, towards investing in railroads, etc. No debt at all. But now they changed it overnight with the old parliament in 2 minutes to have to abolish this debt ceiling, and now in Germany they will rearm in a way that we have never been seeing, in a way that's even bigger than before World War I. It's a crazy decision today. I do think all the people here do remember the 20th century. When I'm speaking, I'm looking towards the people. The young people don't know anymore that the 20th century, everyone in Europe will agree you don't have to put Germans in a uniform. Bad idea. Bad idea. Germans no uniform, no Stahl helmet, no Pillen helmet. Germans not arm, do not arm the Germans. Everyone agreed after World War II that we don't do that. And so Europe was this compromise between France had the army and the nuclear weapons, and Germany had the economy, and Frankfurt, and then the euro that was in fact the Deutsche Mark, disguised as the euro, etc., etc. So Germany, the economy, and France had the army, and everyone agreed, do not give weapons to the Germans. That was the 21st. And now what we are doing, the Germans are rearming at a scale that is not seen before, and it is dangerous because there is a war going on in the Ukraine, and there are forces now saying we have to mobilize the German population to go towards this war. And I think that all this fear that is being inflicted into the population by television, by I don't know what stars, generals that come on the television, I do think it's the same in Britain. Like a few years ago in Belgium on the television, you had politicians doing the talk, now you have generals doing the talk. Because they don't know something about war, which is crazy. What's your opinion, Mr. General, about the war? And of course,
retired generals in Britain.
Retired generals, okay. But they are pushing towards this war, and they are pushing towards this fear for the Russian people. The Russians will be invading Germany. They will be invading Poland. They are not capable after 3 years of war to take more than 20% of the sites of Ukraine. They are not capable, even with the North Koreans troops, to regain the whole of Kursk. They are not capable. Their economy, the level of their economy in Russia is now is the same, the GDP, as the Benelux, as Belgium, Netherlands, and the Luxembourg. So all this fear inflicting towards the European people that the Russian army is ready to invade Europe is only to make the military industry greater again, and is to get fear to have the support of the population for this militarization. And I do think that at this moment there is a military Keynesianism that is being inflicted in Europe, and it is not the answer, because Europe is in a crisis. They have no vision on the industrial development, no vision at all, and they do say, okay, we will militarize everything, but it's not the question, because if Germany is not capable to produce cars and to sell cars anymore, there's a lot of crisis in the German automobile factories, Volkswagen, Audi, etc. They have a crisis. Now they will change it by tanks and by munition. But it's not a solution because, okay, simple example, I can buy a Volkswagen and maybe in 20 years I can buy a new Volkswagen to go to my grandmother or to my mother. But I will not go buy tank to my grandmother, so I will not buy a tank. And that's the problem. A tank is produced not for families, not for a consumption base, and if you produce tanks, if you produce munition, and if you organize the whole of your economy through the war, around the war, you have to continue the war. You can only militarize your economy if you are in a permanent state of war, like the United States did. The United States is built around a war economy, but they are, since World War II, permanently in war. They use their weapons. They can continue to produce. So this military Keynesianism will push the war. They will push the forces to say, no, we don't want to have a peace agreement or some kind of deal in the Ukraine. No, all this militarization will push the war. If you organize your whole economy around the war, you will push the forces of war and not the forces of peace, evidently. And, okay, I do think everyone knows it's going now to extreme forms, 3%, 4%, 5%, Euro nuke. They are talking about a kind of Euro nuke where the detonator would rotate between EU capitals. It's crazy. There is no break anymore around all this kind of things. And I do think, to conclude, there's a lot of things changing, and we have a whole debate in Europe about, if you see this militarization, if you see these forces of destruction, if you see these forces of fascism and racism too, how to remain hopeful, how to inspire people to struggle, to organize, to mobilize. And that's a very important question, I do think, because I do think the first thing to answer to that question is there is a rage among working class people. There is a rage in the United States, there is a rage in Belgium, there is a rage everywhere. I do think there is an anger inside the working class. And we must see that anger, because this anger is correct. It is just because people feel it. They feel it in their tones, in their fingers. They feel it is not just. It is not just that the class division is becoming greater. It is not just that there is that amount of wealth in this world and it is how it is divided. It's not just that everyone is talking about war and no one is talking about peace. People feel it somewhere. And I do think we have to take this race serious and be there where the working class is. It sounds very evidently, but I do think for some forces of the left in Europe, it isn't evidently anymore. So I will repeat it. You have to be where the working class people today are, in the workplace and in people's quarters. A left-wing party, a Marxist party, a communist party, a socialist party, a party for peace, they have to convince the working class, and they have to be in these areas. They have to live together with working class people, be a real working class party. It's very, very important. It's not a new thing. It was the way that the working class in the 19th century was won by working class parties here in England and in Belgium. It was that way, and it's not another way today. There's no miracle way. I do think that's the first thing. The second thing is I do think that if we organize meetings with working class people and meetings with in people's quarters, we have to search how to strengthen people. Because in my opinion, I went to a lot of meetings of the European left, and when I was not depressed entering the conference room, I surely was depressed leaving the conference room. And that cannot be the goal of the left-wing party. Our goal cannot be talk each other into a depression. That is not our goal is to emancipate people. Our goal is to feel people great again, not the system, the people great again, working class great again, because all the system does is to feel people very, very small, very, very lonely. And so all these basic things of organize, to be together and organizing, etc., I do think is very modern and very 21st century to do this again. And we could succeed if we do so. And thirdly, I do think so too that we have to talk about socialism again. This system, this capitalism, as it is till now, is going over the rich. It's going towards the destruction of the planet, concerning the war, concerning ecology, concerning extermination of people, like in Palestine, the first televised genocide. It's a crazy time. We can now follow the genocide, but with our handy. And I do think that a lot of young people, a lot of working class people, a lot of people, they know there's something very, very rotten in the core of the capitalist system. And I think it is now the time to speak again about socialism. Maybe it was difficult in the 90s. Maybe it was difficult in the beginning of the 2000s. Maybe it was more easy in the 2010s, but now it is a necessity. It is a necessity also being part of giving hope to people. This system is not the end of history. This system is not the last system in the history. We can create with ourselves a new system, being socialism, being real liberation, like your journal is called, from capitalism and oppression. So thank you very much.